So as you start selling on Amazon, it's very important to keep your account in good standing with Amazon. And there's some things that you need to keep in mind to be a really good seller on Amazon. There's some bad apples out there that abuse the system, and Amazon's always trying to knock them down. And it gets frustrating sometimes as a seller who goes by the rules to see other people breaking the rules, but eventually they're going to get caught. In fact, in 2021, Amazon cut off over $1 billion worth of sales on Amazon from some companies that were manipulating the system and doing some things they shouldn't have been doing. Amazon didn't care that how much money they were doing. They just cut them off, and it's sent shockwaves throughout the Amazon seller community. And there's a whole bunch more that are actually in the process of being shut down as well. So Amazon takes this very, very seriously. So even though you may see other people doing things they shouldn't be, don't be one of them. Try to play by the rules as much as you can. And I just want to give you a few pointers here to help you out to make sure that you actually keep your account in good standing and you are a good seller. The first thing you want to look at is your seller feedback score. Your seller feedback score is going to affect a lot of things, whether you get Amazon loans in the future. It's going to affect, and it has a small effect on how you rank on some of your products. It's going to affect a number of things. And you want to try to keep that above a 98%. Now, this is different than your review score. This is your seller feedback. So this is how you handle shipping, how you handle packaging, how you handle different things. And you want to keep that above 98%. And so it doesn't have anything to do with the product. It's basically everything that's not product related. If you're in that 95 to 97%, that's the second tier, and that's not too bad. But if you go below 95, it's going to probably adversely affect you in a lot of ways on Amazon. Now, you can, if someone sends you a seller feedback, sometimes customers get confused, and they will write a review about your product in the seller feedback. And maybe if it's a positive review, you can just leave it. If they give you a 5-star, I would just leave it. But if they give you like a 1 or 2-star review about your product, but they inadvertently put it in seller feedback, Amazon gives you an option to report this, and Amazon, the AI, will take a look at it. If it appears that it's in fact a product review, Amazon will either delete it or they'll scratch through it and saying, we take responsibility for this item, and that will help improve your score. So that's something you want to constantly monitor. Helium 10 has a tool called Alerts that will alert you by email or text every time you get a negative review, so you can jump on it right away and try to get it fixed, whether it's a seller feedback or a product review. So that's something you want to pay attention to. You also want to deal with any seller performance issues right away. Sometimes Amazon is slow to send these emails out. You'll see maybe a listing disappears and it's 24 hours before you actually get the email notifying you for what reason it was. But you can sometimes log into Seller Central in the back end and actually see this before you actually get the email. So any kind of seller performance issues you want to take a look at. Sometimes those could be shipping issues where you packed things too heavily and they gave you a warning. It could be something for your images. You did something that you shouldn't have done in your images. It could be a number of things, but you want to always address those as fast as possible and get those cleared up so those don't hang over your account. You also, any kind of notifications you get from Amazon, don't slack those off and I gotta deal with those next week. Deal with them right away. Because the longer they sit there, the bigger problem they can be, especially emails. Any customer email you have to answer within 24 hours or you'll get dinged, and that includes weekends and holidays. Now, if sometimes people will spam you through there, sometimes you'll get emails or people offering to sell you some software, do some service for you or something. Those you can just hit no response needed, so you don't have to physically answer every email. You can hit the no response needed, and that'll take care of it. But Amazon wants you to acknowledge any customer inquiry within 24 hours. Another thing is you could want to make sure as you watch your product reviews and try to keep those as positive as you can. Now, you can't manipulate those or you can't influence those. We'll talk about that in just a second. But your reviews, if you get a bad review from a customer, it's difficult to actually contact that customer, and you're not allowed to contact them and ask them to actually change the review. But what you can do is there's a new tool on Amazon where you can actually, if you're brand registered, this is another reason you need to be brand registered, you can go into the brands tab and there's a customer reviews option there, where if you click on that, you can actually do one of two things. You can either refund the customer right away if they if they give you a bad review, or you can hit a button to actually contact them. Now, to contact them, it's a template, so you're not able to really add too much to that template, but it can start a dialogue so that hopefully you can engage the customer and hopefully see what the problem was and hopefully fix it for them. and then maybe they'll go and they'll actually update their review. You got to be careful about asking them to update it, but you can engage them, and that's something you want to get on right away, especially if you can answer those really fast. If a customer leaves you a 1-star review and you're responding to them within an hour or two, it's still fresh in their mind and they haven't moved on. Maybe they're still sitting at their computer, and you can oftentimes resolve the issue right away, versus if you wait a day or two, they've moved on to other things, and they're less amenable at that point. So it's very important to either yourself or have a VA or someone that's Johnny on the spot on these things to address them really quick, because one negative review can even dramatically tank your sales. Another thing you might notice sometimes is you've lost the buy box. And maybe sometimes it happens during the middle of the night. And why did I lose the buy box? Sometimes if your pricing goes out of range, and Amazon thinks you're price gouging, even though you're not, you can lose the buy box. But more often than not, the buy box is lost either because someone else has jumped on your listing and is selling something, or they're from a country, they're surfing Amazon from a country that Amazon doesn't ship to, so it won't show them in the buy box. But you want to make sure that buy box percentage stays ideally above 95% if possible. And if it goes below 95%, you might want to take a look and see why, and see if you can't figure out why that's going below that. If someone's on your listing, if someone's coming in the middle of the night and selling something, or if you're getting a lot of traffic from outside the US in a country that Amazon doesn't ship to. Another thing is you want to be careful with your titles. The titles are valuable real estate on Amazon, but Amazon has certain rules about the titles. They really want you to put your brand name first and then the rest of your title. Oftentimes you can kind of get around that and not put the brand name first, but that's another reason to have a short brand name when you're selling on Amazon. If possible, don't have a big long brand name, because it takes up too much real estate. But I would always try to not put the brand first and see if you can get that passed. But Amazon does usually require that the brand name be first and then the rest of the title. Also, watch your title lengths. They usually need to be between 50 and 200 characters. So depending on the categories, Amazon can suppress things if they go too long. So be careful with that. Another thing is something that you might want to check is setting your max order quantity. There's a setting in the back end on Seller Central when you're setting up your listing for max order quantity. So you can restrict how many somebody can order. And the reason you might want to do this, if you're selling a lot of business to business, maybe people do need to order in bulk. And so you have to be careful with this. But if you're not selling to business and you have a hot, successful product, sometimes what people will do is they'll add, if you don't have this set, and let's say you have 1,000 units in stock, they will order 500 of these units. But they will enter a credit card number that is no good. And that's locking up 500 of your units. But if you have a max order quantity set to say 10, the most they can put in their card is 10. And so there's some tricks that people will play against you to try to force you to go out of stock if there's some bad actors in your category and you're doing well. And the max order quantity is something that you can use to actually help control that. It can also be good for if you set up a promotion or a coupon and maybe you didn't set something up right, and it can prevent any kind of catastrophic things happening where you get wiped out because you set up a coupon or promotion wrong. So what I do is a lot of times I set that to 5 or 10 unless I have heavy business discounts on that product. And speaking of business, that's another category that you might want to look at on Amazon, is actually make sure you do set business pricing on your products, because there are a lot of business-to-business buyers on Amazon that are buying in bulk. And if you offer them discounts, they might pick your product over somebody else. You can also sign up for some of the business programs on Amazon, especially if you're a minority or you're a veteran or you're disabled. There's several categories where Amazon will allow you to sign up in their business program. And if you can prove one of these special categories, woman-owned business is another one. A lot of business buyers, when they're actually buying on Amazon, they will have to actually use filters. And actually, if they're buying, let's say, some copy paper for the office, they type in copy paper, up comes 10,000 results. Well, there's some options on the left that says only show me women-owned or veteran-owned businesses selling on Amazon. They can click those buttons, and all of a sudden it goes from 10,000 to 200 results or something. And so it can eliminate a lot of your competition really fast. So if you're eligible for one of those things, take a look at the Amazon Business program, and it'll list everything, all the requirements for that if you're eligible, and that can be really, really good. One thing that you really don't want to do is ever mess with reviews. Amazon takes review manipulation extremely seriously. They punish that harder than anything, and they have a zero tolerance for review manipulation. And so on review manipulation, when you can never ask people to leave a 5-star review in your product inserts, on your packaging, anywhere. Never ask people to leave a 5-star review. You can't do things like say, if you have a problem with this product, contact us. If you like it, go leave us a 5-star review. That's review manipulation. You can't have your friends and family write reviews. That your friends and family can buy your product for you. They can do search find buys and search by a keyword to help you get some rank, but they can't leave reviews, or you could get suspended. So don't have people in your office leave reviews. Don't do any kind of review manipulation. Don't try to get people to change your review if it's negative. Even though I talked about earlier, you can contact people. Try to fix the problem, and hopefully they will change it on their own. I've had a lot of customers do that, but don't ask them to do it. You can get in some hot water on that. Another thing that you might want to consider is how you deal with returns. You're dealing, if you're not used to this, you're going to get a lot of people who you're going to feel just don't have a brain that are buying from you. And you're going to be looking at them, what the heck? Did they not read the listing? Did they not look at the picture? This is so easy. You just get a lot of ignorant people that buy things or will claim things. And so you have to have a little bit of a tolerance there. And you often, on Amazon, the customer is always right. Other platforms, sometimes the seller is the one that has the upper hand. But on Amazon, they'll do anything to please the customer. And you need to take that same attitude. So if a customer wants to return something, don't make them jump through hoops to return it. Just say, what I often do, unless it's a $2,000 item or something crazy expensive, but if it's a $50 item or $100 item or less, I just take the hit. That's just, I actually add that in. You'll see that when we get to the spreadsheet later, I add about a 2 to 3% margin on every single sale I do just to absorb the cost of returns. And so and what you want to do is, if it's not a crazy expensive item, is just say, I'm sorry, you didn't like this. I'll be happy to issue your return. No need to return it back to Amazon. Because if it returns back to Amazon, then you got to deal with it again. So a lot of times I just email the customer and I just say, I'm sorry you didn't like it. Would you like me to send another one? If not, I'll issue a refund. No need to hassle with sending it back. And you just absorb the loss. And always word things in a very nice way to the customer and assume they're right. Never say you're an idiot. I know my product is good. It works this way. You're just stupid. Even if they are, you're just going to have to word it in a very kind and gentle way, because all it takes is one customer that you rub wrong. They'll go leave you a negative review, that could affect your sales a lot more than that $100 that you just lost in the refund, or they'll leave you a negative seller feedback because they're angry, and you don't want that. You want to prevent that at all costs. So on returns, you got to be really careful and just bend over backwards and take care of them no matter what, and just suck it up to, it's just part of doing business. I see a lot of people that get too worried over 20 or 30 bucks, or people ripping them off. There's going to be people that rip you off straight up. That's just part of it. Just deal with them and then move on. Don't lose any sleep over it. That's an important thing. Another thing you want to make sure you do is, Amazon messes up sometimes. Sometimes a customer says they're going to return something and they never return it, but Amazon actually deducts the sale from your payouts. Or Amazon will damage or lose things in the warehouse when you ship them in, and they don't actually reimburse you for them. But there's a tool from Helium 10 called Refund Genie that I would recommend you periodically run. And this tool can actually go in and check a bunch of these things and actually find opportunities where Amazon actually owes you money, and you can get the money back. I have a friend that actually got $1 million with an M, back because they hadn't run this thing in like 3 years and they were selling crazy amounts of money. And Refund Genie found actually $1 million worth of missed opportunity that it's like found money for them. So make sure you periodically do that. Amazon will sometimes actually refund you when they're supposed to, but a lot of times it just gets lost in the shuffle. They're just a huge organization and it's not a priority for them. So these tools only go back so far. So that's why you need to do it every month or every couple months at a minimum, especially once you start doing some bigger volume. Another thing that you want to take a look at is the Q&A section on your listing. The Q&A section is a great place to answer customer complaints or problems as you see them coming in, or to address issues that people will have. You can have friends or family ask the Q&A, or people in your customers, you can ask them ask the Q&A. Some will come in naturally, but whenever someone asks a Q&A on your listing, Amazon will often email 2 or 3 of your customers and say, hey, do you know the answer to this question? And they message you. I think it's always best to quickly answer first before the customers does, because the customer may say something different than what you would prefer to say. So make sure you monitor that Q&A section. And you can actually use services like Answer the Public, and you can find out what are common things that people ask about your product. So if you're selling yoga mats, you can go to answerthepublic.com and type in yoga mats, and you can see all over the internet, it gathers all these questions that people are asking. And if you post those as some of your questions and then you answer them, that can help you convert sales and can also help you index on Google and get a little bit of extra traffic as well. Another thing is you want to watch your return rates. You want to really put out the best product possible, because if your return rates go above 5%, you could have your product suspended. Now, it's a little bit different in clothing and a few other categories where they expect a higher return rate, but for most categories, it's 5%. So if you have over a 5% return rate in a 30-day period, Amazon may suspend your listing and say, hey, you need to take a look at this and fix whatever this problem is. They'll actually tell you, and when you log into Seller Central in your customer performance area, what people are complaining about, and you're gonna have to address those issues. So make sure you stay on top of that as well. And then also be careful if you're selling on other platforms. If you're selling on Walmart.com or Shopify or somewhere else, Amazon will go out and spider with software tools, all these other platforms, and see what you're selling for on those platforms. And if you're selling for less on those platforms, they can actually suppress your listing on Amazon. So be careful. Make sure your pricing is fairly consistent across all platforms, or at least Amazon is equal to or the cheapest. Otherwise, you could have problems with your listing being suspended. So those are just a few tips to make sure you stay in line as a good seller. And hopefully these have helped you out, and we'll see you again soon.